Father God, thank you so much for the opportunity we have to be with these great people and just let them share their heart with the world. I just pray that you will help us on our side to honor that, to do justice by Chris and the whole family. Just ask that you would keep us all as calm as possible and let us know that there is a higher purpose here. We want to show the world hope. We want to let the world know who this family is, who Chris is, Jeff, everyone. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So it is Monday morning, around 8:20. We're headed to Hamilton, Texas to start filming interviews for a documentary on Chris Kyle. We're excited about this. There's been so much done on Chris Kyle, the American Sniper stuff, the book, the movie. There's been so many interviews. There's been other books and videos done, but a lot of that has come from one perspective. Today we get the chance to let the parents have their opportunity to talk about Chris, talk about who Chris was as a boy. We rolling on everything?
I think so.
Just take one.
Take one.
This is the city, Odessa, Texas. 80,000 people live here. They drive 11,000 cars. And
In order to eat, I went to work for Southwest. At that time, it was Southwestern Bell Telephone Company.
Telephone company officials say that improper equipment disrupts service on the lines. That disrupted service
After
means that their technicians...
3 years, I guess, they moved us to Odessa, and that's where Chris was born.
So what was that like? First child, all the bells and whistles. What was that like for a new mom?
Just overjoyed. I mean, the unexpected of parenthood, you know, what you don't know, what nobody can tell you. I mean, he was a handful. He was his own little body from the very beginning. I mean, he had a personality bigger than himself, and he tried you. He would try you, definitely. You'd tell him no at something, and he would look at you and grin and continue to do, you know, like, how far can I get this?
You know, maybe from an early age, Chris was big in pulling pranks on people. You know, he was quite the jokester, and he had this real loud cackle laugh. He'd do something, pull something on you, and then he'd just die laughing.
He always liked scaring me. I'd come out of a room or something, and he'd scare me and like to get my reaction. And if we were hauling hay or anything and there were mice anywhere around, he would love to throw them at me because I hate mice. And yeah, that was, oh, Mom, or a snake or anything like that. Yeah, he was always doing stuff like that.
So that never really stopped, did it?
No. When we would be with other family members or anything, he was always watchful of the younger kids. I mean, he babysat. I mean, he would babysit kids all the time, and he would play with them. He was the biggest kid of them all. And when he was in high school, a policeman wanted Chris to babysit the kids, stay with them. And these kids were junior high, middle school, and then a little younger, a boy and a girl. Well, they constantly were fighting and bickering with each other. And Chris told them, knock it off. You're not going to do that anymore. And if you keep it up, I'm going to go have you hug a tree. And they were, yeah. Well, he did. He took them out in the backyard, had them put their arms around a tree, and he got their dad's handcuffs. handcuffed them to the tree together, hugging a tree. The parents came home and found them. Well, their dad was just, oh, that's great, you know, and Mom was going, not so sure about this. So you had to get your bluff in on him quickly.
Was Dad able to get the bluff in?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely.
Oh gosh.
We made our mistakes with the first one. Made a lot of them again with the second one.
Growing up, just like typical brothers, any siblings that were close, we butted heads all the time. It was kind of a love-hate relationship, we would beat on each other and, get in some pretty good knockdown, drag-out fights.
Did they have a lot of fights between each other growing up, or was it just mostly, was it brother stuff?
They did a lot of fighting. No. I mean, it wasn't hatred type fighting.
A few times some weapons became involved. I think my parents are just now hearing the true stories about some of those after all these years.
He looked up to his brother. He wanted to do everything Big Brother did. He always looked up to him. And he would mimic him in anything and everything. And of course, he would pester him,
Running after Chris, trying to keep up with him. Him trying to catch me. I was faster than him at one point. But yeah, he definitely enjoyed picking at little brother. We gave each other, I think, just as much grief as the other one did. So I'm sure I brought a lot of it on myself.
Jeff wanted to learn to cook at an early age, and so he picked up on that and became very good at it, very skilled. Chris couldn't boil water, and so if they were at home by themselves, Chris got hungry, he'd have to go get Jeff to make him something to eat.
Chris's cooking was making Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were pretty ridiculous as kids. I think typical boys in that time. And Dad was a equal opportunity parent, so if one of us got in trouble, then both of us got in trouble, regardless. So that was his belief that, if one of us got in trouble, the other one should have stopped us before we did something that we shouldn't have.
Who were you more afraid of, your mom or your dad?
Ooh, probably Mom. Mom's little and quiet, and those are always the ones that you got to worry about. I found that out growing up. Super sweet, super loving, but if you ever made her mad, there was hell to pay for sure. But I think it was more the disappointment that Mom showed. Dad would get mad. He would be disappointed, of course, but he would get mad and punish you, and then it would be done. Well, Mom would just show the disappointment. And I think that hits a little harder.
Growing up, did you know you were a great shot growing up? I mean, were you like, wow, no?
No, my brother was always a better shot than me, and that, growing up, I thought 300 yards was a long shot, shooting deer. And
Your brother was a better shot than you.
He was. He even shot a turkey out of the air from a hip shot with a 30-30, which he could never do again. But at the time of little kids, I'm going, oh, wow. Man. So he was definitely good. But now, he's still a little brother, so I would never tell him to his face.
Yeah, don't ever do that.
No.
Oh, there was a lot of times that I wished I wasn't the younger brother.
For your halftime entertainment, Midlothian High School proudly presents 1893.
There are 760 students enrolled at Midlothian High. Adult hall monitors have been appointed to deter.
The high school had me on speed dial, especially for Well, it started out with Chris, and then Jeff followed suit.
He had just graduated. We had a big Panther statue in our common area at the high school, and it was tradition that the seniors made the freshmen ride the Panther. Well, Chris was not in school anymore. He had already graduated. Well, he came back that day, the first day of my freshman year, and he stood up by the Panther, and he held up 2 crisp $50 bills and pretty much put a bounty on my head. Said anybody that can put Jeff on the Panther gets both of these. For the rest of the year, it's $50. Well, I'm glad to say I never rode the Panther.
Oh, Chris was always getting Jeff into doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big brother, yeah. But Chris was very protective of him. Chris was real laid back, didn't want any confrontation of any kind, but unless somebody went to pick on Jeff, and he was right there and he'd bow up, and he could beat up on little brother, but nobody else could touch him. So very protective.
What did y'all enjoy as a family that y'all all did together, whether it was just, it's probably a lot of things, meals around the table or going to do things together? What's some of the best things that you remember that you really enjoyed as a family?
Skiing. We went snow skiing every year. Went with another family. Usually went to New Mexico or Colorado, and always enjoyed that.
I'm assuming the boys were daredevils on the slopes.
Jeff more than Chris. Chris was to a point, but Jeff was undoubtedly a daredevil. He'll do anything, or would.
I was the short, fat one. I know I don't look that way now, but of the 3, or of the group that ran, I was the short, fat one. Well, we grew up playing baseball together. I think my dad, and I can't remember, there was Jerry Kerr was another man that was around then. He had a son that was a pitcher. But we were all on the same baseball team. I think it was the Chaparral Steelers, I believe. We had the ugliest uniforms known to man. The local steel mill was the one who did it, but I can remember playing baseball together and all that kind of thing. But then once we got to high school, Chris was obviously bigger, right? So he excelled and did well at football, whereas I didn't. So
Did y'all get in any trouble in high school worth mentioning, or that you can't mention?
I would say no. We did a lot of dumb stuff. The only trouble, I would say, it wasn't really trouble, it was just dumb. We toilet papered, I think they were Jamaican, but I'm not sure. They lived in the neighborhood where Wayne and Deby lived, and at one of his birthdays or something, or I think it was a birthday, we went and toilet papered the holy hell out of their yard. Well, his parents didn't obviously know, and I can remember the next morning those people coming and knocking on the door because they didn't understand what had just happened, and then we had to go clean up all that crap. So that was an innocent version. But as far as bad trouble, I would say not any more so than anybody else that was in high school. Now, did we do a lot of dumb stuff? Yeah.
So when did you first get to know Chris and the Kyles?
It would probably be in the vicinity of the early 80s. My family moved to some property that my grandfather owned there in Midlothian. And then in doing such, my family changed and sought out a church. And the Kyles were a part of that church. And so that's kind of where it started.
His birthday parties, we always had a good time. We would go to his parents' house, and when the night fell, we would all dress up in camo and shoot each other with BB guns and things of that nature. But that was always a highlight for us, going to Chris's birthday parties.
They grew up playing Army men and wearing camo and everything. I mean, it was every birthday that Chris had, he had all of his buddies in, and they knew to bring their camo and their BB guns or whatever, and we had a creek that was down back behind our house, and they were always down at the creek playing Army and everything, so yeah.
Well, I've heard a couple of people talk about the Chris Kyle birthday parties at Wayne and Debbie's house. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, I mean, we had those growing up from young. I don't have my phone with me. I have it saved on my phone. It's a picture. It's me, Chris, Bo, Jeff is there, and he is little. Matt Parker, Dana, Roland, and I can't think of, I think that's all that's in the picture. It's in their garage there, and you know, normal little kid stuff. I mean, we played war and went to they had a creek that ran behind their house, just normal, dumb kid stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Were you in on any of the BB gun fights?
BB gun fights, we had those all the way up through college.
What are y'all snickering about back here?
Nothing.
What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Excuse me. Oh, rewind. Cheeto. I'm going to tell Mom why they call you Cheeto. That's right. Dad. What are you laughing about?
I ain't got nothing to do with it.
What's that have to do with?
The camera. See, I was going to get the camera. I was going to yank your pants down and film it.
Oh, that's nice. I'll see you guys later. Okay, this is Bo again with his dog, and he...
Yeah, I would not trade those days. I'd go back to them.
Chris and Bo, they went straight to Tarleton. I thought I was going to be a baseball player. I went one semester, pretty much failed out, and I had to come home. So I got to talking to Chris and Bo. They said, "Man, you ought to come down here. Come down here. It's great." The very next semester, I enrolled in Tarleton, and so this will kind of give you where I was at. My parents paid for a dorm room. They drove up, they moved me in my dorm room. They no longer drove out of the parking lot, and I threw everything out of my dorm room into the back of my truck, and I drove over to Bo and Chris's apartment. And I said, "I'm here." They said, "We're glad."
We had always told the boys, we'll pay for your education, but you have to get decent grades.
We went straight to the laundromat at the apartment deal, and they had a table in there. It looked like a kitchen table out of somebody's house. We needed a table, so we went over and took the table so nobody could fold their clothes. That was our kitchen table.
Chris got put on academic probation and talked with him about it, and so he was gonna, improve. And
Chris got shot with a BB, and it went through his outer nostril and stuck in his septum. And we were in the bathroom, and I can remember that BB falling out in the sink like it was yesterday.
Then said, "Okay, well, what grade point average can you guarantee us?" I think he said 2.0.
Yeah.
And then there it began, we're talking everything from skiing in the parking lot with your boots in a log chain to parties that we shouldn't have been at and the police show up. I mean, just normal college things, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. It was a lot of fun.
Well, the end of that semester, then he came up with a 1.9 grade point average. So, okay, your funds are cut off.
Can you tell us what kind of student Chris was?
I cannot, but obviously he chose to not go to school. So I don't think it was his favorite thing to be doing. I don't know if his grades were bad or he just didn't go, but yeah.
So how many years were y'all there together?
2, I believe, before he moved. He started working on a ranch out in Bluffdale, if I remember correctly. So.
And he kind of had a passion for that stuff, didn't he?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Two-legged.
We took rubber off the saddle.
They had their chores. They had to clean the rooms. They had to clean their own bathroom. They had animals, and they had to take care of the animals because they showed in FFA and everything, so they had lots of animals, and they knew that if the animals went without water, they did too.
In Midlothian, we had some property, had some land, so we always had horses and cows.
They both learned to ride at an early age. What, Jeff was 5, I guess. Chris would have been 8, 9, something like that. And as they learned to ride on a gentle horse, then they started taking in horses to ride for other people, also to break them. And so they would do that. So they learned to ride and break horses at an early age.
And did they continue to do that on through the years as they got older?
Oh yeah. They, of course, then they started rodeoing.
At that time, Jeff was rodeoing, and I had a camera, and it was like, riding babe, riding babe, riding babe, riding babe.
Just a Kirby, I believe he's got him road. He's carrying him downtown. Here, where you at? Right over here.
I was not allowed to get onto the arena at all. If he was hung up, I was not allowed to be anywhere. Dad could go down there. One time he really did get hung up underneath of a bull one time and was just bruised. Yeah, those 8 seconds were hold your breath. 8 seconds for anything.
I went one time. I went with Chris, and Bo probably was there, another guy named Jay Hendrickson. Chris had already been doing it for a while, and I thought I wanted to do it. And they had it set up where it was just free for all. You came in, paid you $20, signed the waiver, there you go, boy. So I tried that one time, and it hurt so bad. I said, this is stupid. And I can remember Chris said, man, that wasn't, no, I did not like that. I said, you can do that and kill yourself, and I'm gonna stand over here with all these girls. And I said, when they're carting you off, I'm gonna go with the girls. So I didn't get ever heavily involved in the rodeo like Chris did. Chris and even Jeff, they did a lot more of it than I did.
Went to college, got in a rodeo accident, had pins and screws put in my arm, and then the Marines wouldn't take me. So I kept working on the ranches and figured, all right, this is what I'm gonna do for a living. And I got a real nice, polite letter from Tarleton State saying, you've been here for 2.5 years. We politely invite you not to come back next semester. It's okay. But I finally cleaned up my act, started working on these ranches for a living, and then about the time I was 24 or 23, I got a call saying, hey, we're willing to take you in. That's more of acceptable practice to have those kind of surgeries. So apparently recruitment was pretty low.
Yeah.
Because they kept it for those years and then finally tracked me down. So I went in to go talk to the recruiter, and a Marine recruiter was literally out to lunch. So as you're walking out the strip mall, you've got all the other armed services there, and those recruiters are like snipers. Boy, they're just shooting things at you, trying to pick you off to get you to come to them. The Navy guy goes, come here. And I went, I don't want to sit on a ship.
Yeah.
So he goes, no, there's something called SEALs. You can go do it right now.
We've always been very supportive of whatever the boys wanted to do. we're always there for them, and we're not going to discourage them because of maybe our feelings. You've got to, they're men. They've got to make their own lives.
2 minutes, you don't make it. Guess what happens? You do it again.
They pushed you beyond your limits. You know, they made you understand that your mind will carry you a lot farther than your body will. So it was tough, but it was enjoyable. You know, would I want to do it again? No, not the boot camp part.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that the way we were raised, that it prepared both of us, that it wasn't a big culture shock for either one of us. You know, having drill instructors in my face yelling and screaming, honestly, it wasn't that big of a change, because when Dad got mad, it was, I mean, he let you know real quick.
Sterling, hush. Shut up!
I learned a lot about myself, you know, learning to be a part of something bigger.
Intelligence Specialist, 3rd Class Petty Officer Christopher Kyle, SEAL Team 3.
Woo! Way to go, Sam!
You know, you asked how we were both similar. I think that's one of the aspects that we both wanted at a young age. We both wanted to join the military. And that was a pretty exciting time for him, and yeah, I was definitely proud that he was going in. We were in Okinawa, Japan, and we were there training. It was, I want to say it was about 11 o'clock at night. They started running up and down the halls, waking everybody up, and said that, you know, we were being attacked. And, you know, we were confused on who was being attacked, because nothing was happening in Japan. So we all gathered in the common area and watched the planes hit the tower.
It's 8:52 here in New York. I'm Bryant Gumbel. We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan.
What's this other jet doing? What's this other jet doing? Holy
Before that point, we were training for jungle warfare. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of things that we were worried about in the desert at the time. So that was, you know, it was kind of like at a football game, you know, put me in, coach. It's kind of like, hey, you know, it's my time to play. You know, this is my quarter.
Raising kids is a struggle. And then when they graduate from high school, they start a new chapter in their life, and that was hard on me. But that wasn't anything like when they joined the military, but that didn't even come close to comparing what it was like when they both deployed into a war zone.
15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
So I remember when he told me he was getting deployed, and I, of course, was devastated because we had pretty much just started dating. Like, we had only been together like 6 months or so, I think. And so I guess part of me in my head was like, well, it's over and we're done. But I remember him being really excited about it, which made me sad, I guess, because I was like, why are you excited? Like, you have to leave and you have to go across the world. And so that was just that specific interaction in terms of our relationship was pretty interesting. Trying to work through that a little bit, because he was excited to go. I understand that more now as a wife of 18 years versus as a new girlfriend. But I definitely think I was nervous. I was worried.
The first time I met Chris was in Kuwait, 2002, before the initial invasion of Iraq. He was in a totally different platoon. Didn't know who he was. I heard there was another Texas kid around, but you know, they were so busy, we were so busy, and just never crossed paths until then. He came into the hangar one day, and I had just gotten out of a meeting with my platoon about guys wearing state flag patches on their uniform. And we were told no. But this big blonde-haired kid walks in with the big Texas flag on his sleeve, and I'm just like, he can't wear that. I don't know. You know, being from Texas, I'm like, all right, I outrank him. I'm, you know, senior to him. So I'm just like, hey, you can't wear your flag on that uniform. And he kind of looks at me and looks back down and just kind of, he was a first platoon guy. You know, he was an FNG, and I was only on my second platoon. So according to all my guys, I'm a new guy too, but I'm using this right now to ruffle feathers and just to meet another kid from Texas. And I don't know what he said, but I said, man, I'm just busting your balls. I went up and introduced myself, and we started talking about Texas. And then, that's where really our relationship grew.
Talk about that. Talk about your relationship growing and what that looked like. And
it got to the point where the command realized that if they ever put us in the same platoon, that it was going to end up being some kind of shit show. I mean, we were pretty close to the same person. We had the same sense of humor. There was things that he would do that I would just go, you're an idiot. And then there was things I would do that he would look at me and go, see? And, you know, being as big as he was, and, you know, 6'2", 210, 215, you know, he was if he looked at you wrong, he was a scary guy. Very, very capable. But on top of that, very aware of, you know, what people look about him. Because, I mean, all you had to say was walk up to him and go, Chris, man, you're looking pretty good. You're losing weight. I'm not losing weight. And just off. He's gone. You've mentally beat him right there. Because then from there you can go, hey, the small arms locker room's right around the corner. You know, and then for the next 2 weeks he'd be in there just doing curls and triceps. And
the SEALs always had their sat phones, and if they had an opportunity to call or something, Chris was able to. In fact, a couple times he was on the phone and we'd be talking, and then all of a sudden we'd hear something, and it was weapons firing and everything, and he said, I gotta go. And then that was it.
One day he called me, I was at work, and we were talking, and I knew something was up because he was talking real quiet. And I said, why are you talking so quiet? he said, well, I'm up on the roof, and, you know, I think they know where I'm at, but I don't want them to know. And it's like, you know, well, why don't you concentrate on what you're doing instead of calling me? I appreciate it, but then you started hearing things, and then, like Debbie said, and then I got to go, and he hung up. Well, didn't hear from him for several days. And he's, oh, sorry about the other day, but they discovered where I was and started lobbing grenades up there. It's like, God, you know. So it was stressful times.
Chris was real bad about that. Yeah, he wasn't the greatest at picking times when to call. Yeah, I think he got a kick out of it.
Yeah. Maybe towards the end of 05, beginning of 06 is when I might have heard the first time. I don't even know if I gave him that nickname or not. I just said, we were in Ramadi in 06 at the beginning of deployment, and one of the, what we called strap hangers came on. One of the kids that just graduated BUDS and went through SQT and got shipped out to us for some reason. I couldn't believe that they did it, because it was advertised as the worst place on earth.
I remember my last deployment, so nobody really put two and two together. You know, neither one of us were known really at that time, and nobody knew that we were brothers. Well, I remember when I was with the recon unit in 2007 on our deployment, one of our top snipers was sent to another area of Iraq to go do some counter sniper work. And I remember him talking, saying that, you know, I don't know why they're sending us, because there's this SEAL that's over there just, you know, laying waste to everybody. So I don't know why they need our help. You know, they're taking care of business.
But they sent us these new kids out there and started walking them around. And Chris was in the chow hall one day, and I had Salvatore DeFranco. I can't believe I remember his name, but
what a name.
Yeah, train wreck disaster. Well, that was his nickname, Disaster. But I was walking him around, showing him everything. I was like, hey, look, here's the legend, Chris Kyle. And Sal just went, ugh. So they had heard about him all the way through BUDS and SQT and everything else. And he didn't know what to say. And Chris just looked at him and laughed and turned around and walked away. And I don't know. I might have hit him in the mouth or something, told him to come on or whatever. But that's kind of where it started.
They said who it was, and I don't remember if they referred to him as the legend or what they, or if they referred to him by name. But I remember I just kind of, you know, had that swell of pride and just kind of smirked and, you know, didn't say anything, just walked off. Yeah. So that was pretty cool, knowing that, you know, it was all the way through country. Yeah. That, you know, he was doing the work.
Yeah. We thought at times that possibility they have passed in the air, but they were never both in country at the same time.
Most of the time we would have been in passing. If anything, we might have been in the area maybe a day or two at the same time, but we were never together for an extended period of time.
Yeah. Okay. So you never really got to talk to him in person.
No.
In country.
No. Like in the movie, we never saw each other. No, that never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Hollywood.
Yeah.
Being called the legend and all this stuff that comes along with the fame and notoriety the world heaps on somebody. Did he struggle with that type of stuff?
Definitely. He did not like being called the legend, and you would only do that if you wanted to make him mad, and the team guys would always throw that out to him because they wanted to, you know, rib him.
Did y'all rib him about that?
Oh yeah, he hated it. Absolutely, but that was just another thing that, you know, anything to do to get under Chris's skin to make his ears turn red. But it was just fun and games.
But they can do that to each other. But he didn't like that tag at all. He didn't like that.
When he left the military, left military service and came home, what were some of the struggles that y'all had to deal with and that you had to face with him being back?
Yeah, it was probably that was probably the most challenging, for sure. That first year after he was back, number one, we got married right after he got back. So I think the first year of marriage in general is a learning process, living together and doing all those kinds of things. And then he was definitely struggling with not only like the combat part, but just he was home and he was getting out of the military. And I don't think he knew exactly what to do with that. Meanwhile, I was in school and knew exactly like what I wanted and where we were going to be and what I was going to do. So that whole first year was pretty hard, honestly.
We were kind of going through the same troubles at the same time. So it was late nights at the command, not wanting to go home, stepping back into family life. I mean, it was just hard. You know what to expect in combat. I never know what to expect when I go home. I mean, it's no longer my home. I may dwell there, but I walk back into that place and I don't even, you know, I don't recognize it. My child, my wife.
Like, I don't know what to do in that situation. I don't know how to be helpful. I don't know how to help him heal through that, I guess, because I'd never been through that or been in that situation before. So,
and I knew that, I mean, every guy deals with that. And I knew that's what he was dealing with, and I knew that's what I was dealing with, and that was the times that we would spend together playing video games or smelling his feet or out at the bar drinking, you know. Danny's right down the street from the commands. And that's just the way it was. But yeah, his feet stunk.
Why would you specifically say his feet?
Because it was probably worse than anything I've ever smelt in my life.
You know, Chris was exposed to a lot more than I was. So I think he was dealing with a lot more than I was. It really, well, I say it didn't affect me at that time. Looking back, I'm sure it did.
Were y'all able to see some of the impact that the military service has had on the guys?
Well, they became a little more quiet and withdrawn and heavier in their demeanor. Of course, they
Compartmentalize.
Thank you. Things so that it's not always out front. They can kind of put it behind them and deal with it, but they both had some problems.
To want to be in that position, I think it takes, you know, a little bit. I think we're wired maybe a little different to begin with. Maybe not all there upstairs, I don't know. But when you're in the situation, you're able to pretty much disconnect from everything. You're not worried about what's going on at home. You're not worried about anything. You're worried about getting the job done and making sure that everybody else that's with you stays with you. You get scared. You know, anybody that says that they weren't scared is a liar. But fear will make you do a lot of things. Fear will keep you alive.
When Chris got out, he struggled big time, and he gained so much. Chris was a big man anyway, but he gained so much weight, and he became a real porker.
When you get out, you don't live that lifestyle anymore. You know, you don't think about it when you're in, because it's just a lifestyle. That's, you know, you wake up, you run, you work out, you swim, you do whatever, you know, and it's a all-day affair, you know, 7 days a week. And when you get out, you're happy that you don't have to do that, and you tend to get a little fluffy, and, you know, that affects you mentally. You know, strong body's a strong mind, and when one of them fails, then the other one is short to fail not too long. So he started noticing that and started working out real hard again, and then got me back to working out and getting back into shape. And then he started working with some organizations that would actually provide gym memberships or gym equipment to veterans that were out, and, you know, really harping on that physical aspect to help with the mental aspect.
Former Navy SEAL, he's also quite possibly the most lethal sniper in American military history. Mr. Kyle, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So, we've got this new book, American Sniper.
You're looking right behind me at the #2 book on the New York Times bestsellers list right now.
The book is a huge success and fascinating. You talk about your time as a member of SEAL Team 3.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of one of those touchy subjects that people don't really want to open up about, but you have. Why is that?
I'm trying to grab your attention because I got a story behind it that I want you to listen to. I wanted to be able to get it out about not the sacrifices that the military members make, but the sacrifices that their families have to go through, about the single mothers now raising their children and doing all the day-to-day house chores. But then also stories about my guys who deserve to be out there. They didn't get the Medal of Honor, so you don't know about them, but they died heroes, and people should know about them.
There was a gentleman that he had gotten to know that has a ranch about 45 minutes from here. And he opened it up to Chris and said, go there and write your book anytime you want to. Well, he would leave there and come here. And so we saw the effect of him reliving everything and telling that story. We saw the effect of it when he came here.
It was very hard for him, very hard. You know, it brought up a lot of emotions, a lot of, well, anger.
You know, Deby mentioned that they compartmentalize experiences. There's a little compartment in their body, and they put that there and they lock it. Well, he was forced to unlock that and bring it back out.
Having to relive all that and actually put it down on paper and see it all again. Yeah.
I know on the book deal, I do know that they financially were not in the best spot when he got out. And the book deal potentially was going to make money, But in my conversations with him, he didn't want that money. He wanted it to go, pass it forward, which was pretty commendable.
He made the agreement to do the book where all the proceeds from the book went to the two families of two of the guys that he lost in Iraq. And that was pretty much the deciding factor of why he went ahead with the book.
After he joined the military, did y'all have much communication over those times?
No, we really didn't, and that's excuse me?
It's okay.
That was a tough time. We were talking about it earlier. We grew up together. We were close all the way till college, but once he went that route, obviously we're graduated. I come home, got hired on the fire department. So once I got hired on the fire department, it was a 1 to 2 year school. So it was almost like everybody kind of went their separate ways, which, now that you're older, you realize that's pretty common, right? I mean, everybody can't just stay in your same little group as you're growing up. But that's the tough thing for me, is that we did lose contact, even though we might not have been able to be in contact because of his situation or where he was at and what he was doing. That kind of makes it tough. Once he decided he got out of the service, I remember he came to my daughter's birthday party. We invited him. He had just been back, just made his mind up to retire, and he did. He moved back to Midlothian, actually not very far from where my parents live. And so we had just started making that connection again. And so that was, I guess, for me, I was looking forward to that.
Take your time.
And obviously it didn't get to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, ma'am. My brother just came by here. He's now left, but he told me that he's committed a murder. They went out to a shooting range, and he's all crazy. He's psychotic.
That day, for some reason, it was a very dark day. Not outside. It was a dark, heavy feel, even before we got the call.
I was with a group of firemen that I work with, and my wife. We were, I believe we were at Angel Fire, New Mexico, on a ski trip.
Do you remember where you were and what you were doing when you found out what had happened?
I absolutely know exactly where I was and what I was doing.
I was sitting in the office in the house, and got a call from a guy I knew in town, and he wanted us to come into town. I said, I'm not coming into town, Well, we got something I want to talk to you about. Well, you just tell me on the phone, no, I need you to come. And then finally he said, I'm calling on behalf of the sheriff. He would like to talk with y'all about something.
I was a senior chief in E8, deployed with my troop. And I had a BlackBerry phone at the time, so I had access to call home, kind of whenever I wanted. And my wife had never called me, and she called me, and I was like, why? What? I wasn't computing. So I called her back, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Why'd you call me? She goes, you haven't heard. I'm like, haven't heard what? And she said that Chris had been killed.
And it was devastating for me because I had to tell Jeff.
I could tell something was off with his voice, but you know, he wasn't frantic or anything. He was calm, he was soft-spoken, and he asked if I had been watching the news.
Folding tragedy, a former Navy SEAL, a hero to members of the military. This evening, authorities say he was targeted and killed.
He was gunned down at a Texas shooting range, allegedly by a Marine veteran he had been trying to help.
And tonight, police believe they do have a suspect in custody in Dallas County.
Well, Kevin, this is where we believe the chase involving the shooting suspect came to an end sometime this evening. The chase involving a vehicle that, from sources that NBC5 sources tell us, was Chris Kyle's truck.
I hadn't been, and I told him no. And he said, well, don't turn the news on. And he said, Chris is gone. At the time, you know, he was traveling a lot, so it didn't really hit. And I said, okay, where's he at? He said, no, he's gone. I said, well, you already said that. What do you mean he's gone? He said, Chris is dead. And I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it.
I didn't believe her. I said, no, you're not right. And she didn't try to convince me, because she knew the command would let me know.
As soon as I got back to town, I can remember pulling on the street and there being nothing but military and police car. I mean, I was like, what in the hell? And I was so nervous, probably more nervous than I am now, and I don't know why. It was just a strange situation. I can remember knocking on the door. Wayne answered the door, and I said, is Wayne and Debbie Kyle here? And he said, yes, but they're busy right now. And I said, okay, thank you, have a nice day. And I turned around and walked off, and Wayne said, John, it's me.
I had never left any one of my deployments ever. This was my last one, so I was on my 8th. And I went straight to my Command Master Chief's office and I said, I'm going home. And he knew what would happen, and he just said, yeah, go. And I went and told my commanding officer, and they were just like, go. So I came home and then came out to Texas and Midlothian and did all that. And it was hard.
I told Jeff that we were going to where Chris was living, his home. And he said something about, well, he said, okay, I'll be there. I said, no, you need to stay there. We don't know anything about who or what they're part of. And, you know, thinking that it was like a terrorist activity. And had to make him promise me that he would stay home, take care of his family, protect himself, until we knew more. And then I guess it was the next day, and had to call him and tell him, I need you with me. I needed my boy.
We got off the phone and I broke down. I think I ended up laying on the floor like a baby. And Amy came in, and I had to tell her what happened.
And I do remember, like, the most clearly thinking, like, nothing was ever going to be the same, which was hard. I was worried about him because he had struggled so much just with the military and coming home and that adjustment. And I remember him coming in and just like falling to the floor. And of course I had a newborn and I was like, I don't know if he'll ever be the same. Or it's like, is this the moment like our life changes forever? Like nothing will be the same after this moment kind of situation. And then I was really at a loss. Like I didn't know what to do. And I remember waiting to call anyone else because I remember thinking like, as soon as I call someone and tell them, then it really happened.
Almost ironic, right? Or that's the way I look at it. It's like, how is that even possible? It doesn't make sense, right? It's like the wolf in sheep clothing, you know? You finally get through all the stuff. I mean, I wouldn't know because I wouldn't ask him, but I mean, who knows what he went through, or the guys that he was with, his group. How can all that take place and then that happened? It doesn't even make sense, right? It's almost like he finally found some peace or some solace, if you will, if that's the right use of that word, and he let his guard down just for a second trying to help somebody.
It's absolutely amazing.
I've been fortunate enough to have Chris as my best friend since 3rd grade. I can remember playing sports together and having BB gun wars at his birthday parties. He wasn't a good shot back then. Trying to be real cowboys at the FFA roundup, cruising for chicks on the strip in Waxahachie, being a college roommate for 2 years. It's needless to say, I have tons of stories about Chris, and most of them are funny. And you know, Chris loved to laugh, and I'm sure many of you were victims of his practical jokes as I was. If you didn't know Chris, under his tough guy exterior, he was a kind, caring, humble, and selfless man. He would give whatever he had or do whatever was necessary to help someone in need. His love for God, country, family, and Texas, but most of all, I will admire him for his everlasting friendship. I know that I will have to wait until my name is called before I see him again. But I'll always feel Chris in my heart. I'll hear his laugh, and his dad and his brother, and I'll see his face and his son.
The community is a tight-knit community, so it's a mourning process for everybody. The service at the Dallas Cowboy Stadium, I mean, the guys up on stage, the guys, you know, us carrying the casket around, the procession from Arlington to Austin with every exit ramp closed, every on-ramp closed, every overpass, some kind of fire truck with flags hanging out on it. I mean, the storm, the wind, the rain, and people still out there lining the highway. The burial service at Austin National Cemetery, placing the trident on the casket, you know, it was just, that was all of our mourning together. Yeah, it gets me every time. Every time I see the live photos or the videos, just how incredible it was. But
I had always prayed every day. Part of my prayer was that, Lord, if you need somebody from my family, take me. I've lived a good life. You know, I've lived a number of years. You take me. Well, you know, it didn't work out that way. And I was extremely bitter towards God, angry with him.
We know all things work together for good. And the Lord, it's in the Lord's hands, and we know Chris is in a better place. But not to have him with you anymore, not to hear the laughter, the hugs, the smiles, all of his silliness, you know, those aren't there anymore.
I know as a parent, you know, you never want to outlive your kids. You know, you're not supposed to. And to see them do that, that's tough. And it was real tough at that time, you know, for a long time after that.
Did Chris's notoriety just make things that much more difficult, like it had with everything else?
It was pretty wild, the amount of attention that it got. You know, sometimes I think it was a little excessive.
It almost became like a spectacle. And we understood to a point, but not fully understood until he was murdered.
I don't think we were actually able to grieve for a very long time. You know, everything was in public that you had to, you know, I guess put a mask on and go through the motions.
My name is Jeff Kyle. I'm here representing my family, the Kyle family, and also the Littlefield family. I am reading a prepared statement.
It pretty much all started because I didn't want anybody that wasn't family making any kind of announcement for the family. So I took that on, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
The brother of American sniper Chris Kyle continues to carry on the work that his brother started. Jeff Kyle joins us this morning.
Today, though, we're joined by Chris's brother, Jeff Kyle.
Joining me now is Chris's brother, Jeff Kyle. Jeff joins us now in Studio 57. Good morning.
Good morning. I did it to keep myself busy, to not allow myself to think about it. And it affected my family life because I didn't stop and grieve, and I just kept going and, you know, pushing things away and things like that.
It's definitely the most stressful point in our life and in our marriage. And I guess I can understand through the devastation of loss how families can split, fall apart. I had a U.S. congressman reach out to me one day. He was traveling through where we live and wanted to meet me. And I said, why? And he said, I'd just like to talk to you about something. So I went into town and met him. And what he was wanting to do was to award Chris the Medal of Honor posthumously. Is that how you say that? And he said, you know, I'd like to know your thoughts. And I said, no. He said, "You don't think your son deserved the Medal of Honor?" I said, "I didn't say that. But I said, what you're doing is wrong." I said, "You're doing that for your own self." I said, "If you thought he deserved the Medal of Honor, why didn't you push that before he was killed?" I said, "You're just wanting to get your name out there."
I mean, there were always people that were, trying to come in and say that they were close with Chris. They were, they knew Chris, they served with Chris, wanting to use his name and things like that. You wanted to trust everybody to, continue pushing Chris's name out there and keeping his name alive. So yeah, there was a few people that, kind of got one over on us.
I feel so sorry for them because every time you turn around, I feel like somebody's trying to use them or take advantage of them in some way. And I just don't think that's right. But it I'm sure I don't even know half the stuff that has taken place since they took on the endeavor of continuing what Chris was doing. And I honestly don't want to know, but that's what I feel for them, because not only do they have to deal with everything that's going on, plus carry on their foundation, plus do this, but they always got to worry about the wolf, right? The wolf's always biting. He's always trying to get something from you. Well, how horrible would that be? I mean, again, they're trying to do stuff and help people and do good, but yet you're worried the whole time. You're trying to push them off. Right. And I mean, Wayne would kill me, but they ain't spring chickens, right? They're the same age as my parents. My dad just turned 74, so Wayne, I mean, that can't be easy, right? Most people, by the time they're 70s, they're just retiring, diddling around the yard. Well, they're not. Yeah. So that speaks a testament to the kind of people that they are.
Chris's deal was to give back. And that saying, "It's our duty to serve those who serve us," Chris came up with that. And he knew the importance of helping those that have served or are serving. So Jeff and Debbie and I sat down and felt like that we needed to carry on Chris's legacy some way and to create a foundation to give back to veterans and first responders, their respective families. Then that's what we needed to do.
We've got an excellent volunteer group. I mean, all of them just give up their time, and a lot of these are individuals that grew up with Chris and Jeff. Kids that we went skiing together with, played sports together, went to school, graduated with, all of them. And they're still with us. They've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Kyle family, and are still here.
Starting out, our very first one, which 14, I guess this is our 14th annual, a little over 100 people. Tonight we had around 450. And it's been truly amazing.
They have made it their mission to carry on what he decided he was going to do. And obviously that's his parents. They knew he was going to do it.
Allows us to give people out there that are struggling, give them some hope.
Starting the foundation that we have, that's been a big transition for us to be able to accept that he's no longer here, and then continue on with his work that he was so passionate about.
I don't know if you asked it, but I all the time think about what would have been, if Chris wasn't killed, what could we have done? Would we still be laughing train wrecks in a bar? I don't know, maybe. Or would we have taken something from zero into something big? He what are you going to do when you get out? I don't know, Chris. Well, I've got this thing. I'm like, we'll touch base when I get out. I don't know when I'm going to get out. And he's like, all right. But the what ifs are always there. And that's never going to go away. But to me, making up for my lost time with my family is my priority. And I'm not saying that I need that or, but I do. I want that. I feel the time lost with my daughter is what hurts. And it was me. But
there was a time that I realized I can't continue, trying to fill the shoes that he left, or trying to, fill his footsteps. I'll never be that guy. And knowing that I was taken away from my family by trying to do that. So yeah, that, I don't do hardly any interviews or anything anymore, just because, I enjoy my life. I enjoy my lifestyle, simple lifestyle. I enjoy being around my family, and that's what I want to do. I owe it to them to be around and to be present when I am present.
Was there a time period where something hit you, or you felt something that said, you know what, we're going to make it through this, we're going to live a fulfilling life, we're going to come out the other side of this? Did y'all have any kind of a moment like that, or was it just a progression of things?
It's been a progression. It always will be. It's not something you recover from or get over.
There's been many times when I've been out and I'll see a young man from the back, and it's like, that looked like Chris's form. Or I'll hear something, and it's like, and it brings something back. But it's a good and a bad. I mean, I want to hear those things, I want to see those things, but then it's like they're not here anymore. But you still, each and every day you have to deal with it and work through it. That's what life is. You persevere on.
If somebody will look at this and say, well, they've been through loss, they've experienced, the despair and, being downtrodden and everything, and make something good, and I'd like to believe that what we're doing now is we're doing something good. And it doesn't have to be creating a foundation or doing whatever. It's just whatever you can find joy in. Your joy will return. You just need to allow it. You need to find out what will make your joy return.
He was a guy. He was a friend. He was a son.
Sure.
He was just a person.
Yeah, that's all he wanted. He didn't want anything other than that. Yeah. So he's no different than anybody standing here. Yeah. Now, did he do some good things? Yes. But I truly believe that's because God gave him the talent to do those. He playing war and shooting them guns, I'm telling you, the good Lord knew he was going to be a Navy SEAL before he did. And that's why he started at 8 years old shooting cats. And I know that sounds horrible, but I truly believe that. I think God has picked out what you're supposed to do. Now, it's up to you whether you choose to go that route or not. You can fight it if you want, or you can do it. And I think if you choose to go with that path, it'll be good. Obviously, he did, because he was good at it. Well, they tell me he was good at it. I don't know. I never saw his ass do it. But I mean, obviously, anybody you know, they're still talking about it today. So obviously, he must have did something right.
Good luck with that doorbell. You look beautiful today. Yeah.
Today.
And you're here too.
But
you can't We're excited about today. Glad y'all called us up. I know in general what's on your mind, but kind of tell us all what you're thinking and kind of what message you want to get across today.
We've not been allowed to see our grandchildren and have any contact with them at all. And I know that happens in a lot of families with the loss of one parent, and it's always very difficult. And others have come up to us and have relayed their stories to us about the same situations, and try to give us guidance, because we always ask, you know, how are you dealing with it? And continually pray about it and ask the Lord to open up doors or allow things to be said, feelings to be known about. Help me out here.
It's been almost 10 years since we've been allowed to have any contact with our grandson and granddaughter. And it's tough when you go through the loss of a child, and then it adds that much more grief and hurt when you lose the only thing remaining of that child you lost. And that's a part that in those years that we'll never get back. And it's very hurtful. And we have faith that at some point God will bring us all back together. And one thing that I'll never forget is that when Chris wrote his book, and on one of his book signing tours, went up there, and well, I guess I was up there by myself, and the kids were real involved in sports, and it was soccer. And the granddaughter McKenna had a game, and they notified us a little bit ahead of the game that they were taking team pictures. Well, you know, yeah, I knew she had her uniform, and knew how to do that. And I said, well, McKenna, what do we do with your hair? And she said, my daddy always braided it for me. I said, no problem. She said, can you do that? I said, how do you think your daddy learned? And
it was braiding the cattle and the horses'
hair.
That's how he learned. It wasn't from braiding his own.
Yeah. And so I braided her hair. I said, you want me to braid your hair? Yeah. So I braided her hair, and when we got to the game, one of the team moms came up and she said, well, where's McKenna? She said, I'll braid her hair. I said, she's right there. And she said, McKenna, who braided your hair? My papa did. And she was all excited. And of course, that my heart was, blown up 10 times. But it's things like that, that we had memories about. We had a good relationship with them. They were both so, happy-go-lucky type kids.
Out at the house where we live, and Chris came out and brought the kids, and this was actually right after, we weren't even living in the house at the time. I don't think it was finished, and there were dirt piles everywhere. Well, we had bought bicycles for the kids to ride around the property, and Colton, of course, being a daredevil, he wanted to do jumps. So we rigged up stuff for him to do jumps with his bicycle. And he would jump and jump and jump, and he would fall and he would get back up and he would go again. And it was a constant thing, and he was just worn out, but he was not gonna quit. I mean, he was gung-ho like his daddy. Yeah. Just want him to know that the love's always been there. It wasn't our choice that this has taken place, but we want them to know we always will. We talk about them, pray about them all the time.
And we're the only way that they'll ever completely know about their father. They'll never know the things he did when he was 10 years old, 15 years old, the things he did when he was the age they are now. And we want to share those times with them. We want them to know. We want them to understand and have, full love for their dad, the way that we do. And we want them to know, Colton and McKenna, we love you. We miss you, and we're always there for you. All you have to do is reach out and let us know, and we'll be there. Proud of you.
Today I leave home. Don't know how long I'll be gone. What's over there, I don't know. The Lord is with me everywhere I go. Mama, don't be scared, I'll be alright. You and Daddy taught me how to stand and fight. And I'm not afraid if I have to die. Lord, just let me sing one more Texas sky. I've been here for a couple months now. Spend most of my time looking down. I've seen the world through my scope. Come on, boys, it's time to go. Mama, don't be scared, I'm alright. You and Daddy taught me how to stand and fight. And the Lord has spared me, I'm alive. And I'm coming home to see that Texas sky. One day I'll leave this earth. They'll bury me in that West Texas dirt. Just know that I'm fine. I'm up above that big Texas sky.